Okay, so we're in Esther. We're on chapter 5. And we're moving right along here. So, all right. Now, it happened on the third day. This third day comes up a lot too. The 3 days, Anyway, on the third day, that Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, across from the king's house, while the king sat on his royal throne in the royal house, facing the entrance of the house. So it was when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court that she found favor in his sight, and the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. And here again, you see this type thing, it's sort of like the son coming up to the throne of the Father and all those things, that's what I see here. Interceding for the people and all that. So, and the king said to her, "What do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you, up to half the kingdom." Now look at this, I've had a feeling, right? Like, I don't know why she was so worried. I mean, if he loves her and he really adores her, right? And she's making him happy. I hope they were happy, but anyway, right? Like, I don't know about that 30 days, but okay. Anyway, you gotta laugh sometimes, but okay, seriously now, why would he not extend a scepter to her? I mean, that just makes no sense. And he does, but it's just amazing that, like, if he wouldn't, that would be crazy. But he does, of course, right? And then he says this to her. Not only is he willing to grant a request for her, but he says, "It shall be given to you up to half the kingdom." I mean, look at that. Talk about, wow. I mean, he's really generous towards her, that he's willing to give her half his kingdom. So this is above and beyond anything she could have hoped for. And for this, and this comes up again later, this half the kingdom. So, and I know she is queen, but still, I mean, anyway, she obviously didn't have it yet, or he couldn't have offered it to her. So, and this is where she's more a type of the church again, and I'll get to this because there's an interesting thing right here. I'll pick up with that. So, verse 4 would be next, but I want to jump over here real quick and show you something. Okay. Yeah. This is one of the things in Revelation, the letters to the churches, okay? And first time I read that in Esther, this came to my mind. So that's why I want to share it right now. So it's Revelation chapter 3, verse 21. To him who overcomes, I will, this is Jesus talking, okay? If I can turn the page. All right. I will grant to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. Okay, so you kind of see that idea, that picture there, like the ruling and reigning with him, sitting on it. I mean, I can't even imagine, but anyway, that half the kingdom thing makes me think of that. So it's another type in there. So I wanted to mention that. Okay. So Esther answered, and she's still nervous. So here we go. She answered, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him." Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly, that he may do as Esther has said." So the king and Haman went to the banquet that Esther had prepared. So, I mean, he's like snapping the fingers. Come on, we're going to this banquet. Hurry up. Esther prepared it, you know. I mean, you can tell he really admires her and he really appreciates her and respects her. And so she had nothing to worry about, but for some reason, you know, she was nervous. So she has a plan, and you'll see. At the banquet of wine, the king said to Esther, he knew, you know, something was up, right? To Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your request? Up to half the kingdom, it shall be done." Or up to half the kingdom, like a question, you know, it shall be done. So there that shows up again. And then, then Esther answered and said, "My petition and request is this." So she's still nervous, so watch this. "If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet which I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do as the king has said." So she's like stalling, like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, right? Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, now, so Haman went out that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with indignation against Mordecai. And oh, one more thing up here. At least you have to see she's humble, you know, she's not demanding. And I'm sure, you know, I mean, that's good, but okay. So anyway, in him, now he's indignant that Mordecai doesn't tremble at his sight. Oh my goodness, right? And what does that sound like? Okay, so indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. And he sent and called for his friends and his wife Zeresh. Then Haman told them of his great riches, the multitude of his children, everything in which the king had promoted him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and servants of the king. So he was bragging. So again, filled with pride, bragging, you know, all this stuff, wants adoration, admiration, all these things. Moreover, Haman said, besides, Queen Esther invited no one but me to come in with the king to the banquet that she prepared, and tomorrow I am again invited by her along with the king. Yet all this avails me nothing so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. I mean, can you imagine? He's still upset, like all this doesn't even mean anything because he doesn't get this. You know, that it really reminds me of the devil, you know. So anyway, then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, I mean, look at these people. Let a gallows be made 50 cubits high, and in the morning suggest to the king that Mordecai be hanged on it, then go merrily with the king to the banquet. Okay, we'll just plot this man's death and go merrily along our way to feasting. I mean, For no reason, they want to kill him because, oh, he doesn't bow down to him and tremble at his sight. Wow. I mean, talk about ego, right? And evil. So, and the thing pleased Haman, so he had the gallows made. Oh my goodness, right? I mean, wow. Okay. Now it really gets interesting. Okay, here, chapter 6. Uh, that night, the king could not sleep. So one was commanded to bring the book of the records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, the doorkeepers who had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. Then the king said, so this whole thing, came up again, and there's a reason why he couldn't sleep, right? This was the workings of God here. So then the king said, what honor or dignity has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? All right, so he's like, oh, he never got rewarded. He saved my life, never got a reward. The guys got punished, but what about Mordecai getting a reward, right? So, and the king's servants who attended him said, nothing has been done for him. So the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to suggest that the king hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. Oh, I mean, this would be such a great movie. The king's servant said to him, Haman is there, standing in the court. And the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king asked him, what shall be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, he thinks it's him, whom would the king delight to honor more than me? And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delights to honor, let a royal robe be brought, which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, which has a royal crest placed on its head. Then let this robe and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that he may array the man whom the king delights to honor. Then parade him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Then the king said to Haman, hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have suggested, and do so for Mordecai, the Jew who sits within the king's gate. Leave nothing undone of all that you have spoken. So Haman gets to do this for Mordecai, right? I mean, isn't this hilarious? And Haman thought this would be for him, and he wanted Mordecai on the gallows. Now Mordecai gets honored, and Haman has the honor of being the one to have to do all this for Mordecai. Oh, I love it. I just love it. Oh my goodness. So Haman took the robe and the horse, arrayed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. And he had to yell this over and over, right? Oh, I mean, wow. Afterward, Mordecai went back to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house, mourning and with his head covered. This couldn't be better, right? It's just great. All right. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that had happened to him, his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, if Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but will surely fall before him. So they already knew there was a reputation here that if you were honoring God, God would protect you, preserve you, honor you, all that. See, they knew. Isn't that interesting? While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs came and hastened to bring Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. Okay, now it gets interesting. Let me see, wait, how much I have. It's 10 chapters, but I just want to see. We're at 15. Okay, well, I'll keep going either way for now. So the king and Haman went to dine with Queen Esther, and on the second day at the banquet of wine, the king again said to Esther, what is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted to you. And what is your request? Up to half the kingdom? It shall be done. So we see this again. Now, here we go. Then Queen Esther answered and said, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people at my request. For we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. Had we been sold as male and female slaves, I would have held my tongue, although the enemy could never compensate for the king's loss. So King Ahasuerus answered and said to Queen Esther, who is he, and where is he, who would dare presume in his heart to do such a thing? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. So Haman was terrified before the king and queen. So she puts it all on the table. This is what's happening. Okay? And I think that he didn't realize anything. Like, he didn't know Esther was Jewish. He didn't know anything about that, But he just ignorantly went with what Haman had said. And now it dawns on him, right, what was going on. So then the king arose in his wrath from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. So he probably went to think, right, like, what is all this, all these people, why, right? But Haman stood before Queen Esther, pleading for his life, for he saw that evil was determined against him by the king. When the king returned from the palace garden, to the place of the banquet of wine, Haman had fallen across the couch where Esther was. It's just not looking good for him, right? It keeps getting worse. Then the king said, will he also assault the queen while I am in the house? As the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Now Harbona, one of the eunuchs, said to the king, look, it just keeps getting better. Look, the gallows, 50 cubits high, which Haman made for Mordecai. Now this comes rolling in, right? Who spoke good on the king's behalf. He saved his life, right? Who spoke good on the king's behalf is standing at the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him on it. I mean, talk about, justice and things turning around on the guy's head. Wow. I mean, it can't get funnier. It's just hilarious. Okay, now. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's wrath subsided. Okay, now, yeah, that's the end of the Haman ordeal. That was hilarious. I mean, when I read that the first time, I was laughing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that ordeal is over. Now, this is sort of the next little section. So yeah, I will break this up and make the last video. Okay, it's just pretty much 2 chapters and a tiny bit in 10. I'll be right back.